Feature Friday. I think that's my new jingle. Welcome to Feature Friday. Today I thought I would feature a brand new product that I just put in my store. However, it's not brand new to my studio. I actually did this about 10 years ago. I did a time capsule for my students, a composer time capsule. So I thought it would be fun to give it a little updated look and bring it back and make it available to you. I started with Bach, and this is going to be an ongoing series that will be available in my Teachers Pay Teachers store. So keep a lookout for those. And when they're newly released, all my new released products are 20% off the first 24 hours they're available. So make sure you're a TPT follower so you get notified when the products come out. Anyway, so how I make these time capsules is I had just taken a container that used to be a container, I think it's Electrosol or something, dishwasher tabs, and so it was an empty container I already had after I used my dishwasher tabs, and decorated it with Bach, the Bach time capsule. And you can pretty much take any container you have at home. If you want a long one like this one, the dishwasher tabs are great. Granola, those big oak granola, containers. But you could also use things like coffee cans, hot chocolate cans, baby formula cans if you don't care if it's too tall. I personally like mine tall because I can fit more in it and do different things with it, which I'll talk about. So I have included 16 facts cards about Bach, and things like this one says, in his spare time, Bach conducted a group of musicians who liked to get together to perform at a local coffee house. And it has a picture of a coffee cup. And then another one might be, Bach's employer, Prince Leopold, was a talented musician who loved and understood the art. And so then it has the crown right here. So each of the facts comes with some kind of visual representation of it. And this is important because a lot of us are visual, and so when we see the visual things, we remember them a little bit better. But I like to take it one step further and try to attach something that represents it in the time capsule. So you can do it a couple different ways. You can have just the cards in here, and you're sharing it with your students by taking one card at a time, talking about what's on the card and anything else that you want to note about it. So you could do that. Or something that I like to do when I can, not all the cards I can do that with, but when I can, I like to associate it with something physical. So for example, Bach had 20 children. 7 was with his first wife, Maria Barbara, and 13 was with his second wife, Anna Magdalena. 4 children from his first marriage and 6 from his second marriage survived to adulthood. And then it says 4 of his sons became composers. So my physical product for representing that, to remember that he had 20 children, is I've just made 20 paper doll, these little paper doll things. So on each of the kids, I wrote the Bach's kids' names on them in their birthday and such. So I just laminated them so they just stay together and they don't tear apart, and those are representing his 20 kids. And I just thought I would show a couple other examples. So another one is this one. This is a shoe, and it would represent the card that says, in 1705, Bach walked 200 miles from Arnstadt to Lübeck to hear organist Dietrich Buxtehude play, and I'm sure I'm probably butchering these names. He was only granted 4 weeks leave from his position as organist in Arnstadt, but ended up taking off 4 months without permission. So the shoe just represents the 200 miles that he walked. And then with this card, this just talks about how Bach might be remembered long after his death because the Voyager spaceship, so I just put a little spaceship on this card, the Voyager spacecraft was launched into space carrying recordings of 3 pieces by Bach. So the spacecraft is a little reminder of that. And then here I have a little feather with ink dipped in it, and I also even have a little tube of ink. But this one says, Bach worked most of his life in low light conditions, usually by candlelight when he composed. And so the feather, I just kind of go on and talk about how in those days when they composed, they would dip a feather in ink and write with that. They didn't have pens and pencils in those days. And then my last example, I just happened to have a keychain when I was part of the MDA. They do that lockup fundraiser. So I just happened to have a keychain of handcuffs. So my last one is for the card that says, in 1708, Bach worked in the court as an organist for the Duke Ernst. After a few years, Bach decided the Duke was not a good employer and left for a friendlier court. When the Duke heard about his decision to leave, he became angry and threw Bach in jail for a month. And so the handcuffs just remind them of how he went to jail because the Duke was not happy he was leaving. And so just some fun facts. There's, like I said, there's 16 of them. And then something else that I did is I made these visual cue cards. So if you wanted to make a game out of it and kind of quiz them, okay, so what did this remind you of Bach? You know, with the 20 kids, if they saw the coffee mug, what would they remember about that? Or the crown. And let's see what else we have. Oh, and here's one with glasses. This would remind them of how he had eyesight problems, and ultimately that led to his death. Things like that. So you can, quiz them that way where they're just seeing the visual representations, but also I like to copy 2 sets of the visual cards and do a memory game. And so when they're flipping over and getting a match, then when they get the match, they can say what they remember about that card. So just a fun way of learning about different composers and remembering all about them. And like I said, I have more on the way. Beethoven's coming up next, and I'm going to do a bunch of them. So keep your eye out for those, and I hope you enjoyed this Feature Friday. Bye.